All right. Hello, everyone. Cheers and salutations. Welcome to another episode of Hardlands Media. Yes, we are live even on New Year's Day. Welcome, all of you, so much for joining us. We've got a lot to talk about and to discuss. And I hope everyone had a very good New Year's Eve. But let's start enjoying what 2022 can offer us and the new opportunities that will await all of us in this new year. Of course, we're going to be still dealing with the same challenges and fights, but nonetheless, Hardlands Media is going to be pushing forward. And I urge all of you to be sure to subscribe to us on YouTube, Odyssey, and Rockfin. We are working on a lot of great projects, and please consider being a Patreon supporter as well. We do appreciate all the support that we are getting here on our network. And again, be sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe, and double check that you are still subscribed because sadly, YouTube is unsubscribing a lot of you, and there's nothing that we can do about it, but that's, I guess, the era we live in, especially with YouTube suppression and censorship. So that's why be sure to subscribe to us on Rockfin and Odyssey as well, and support Chicago's fastest growing independent media network. With that being said, let's get started with our first segment, but I also want to acknowledge everyone here in the live stream chat as well. We got the Red Pakarin, Happy New Year. We got War Deer Entertainment, good morning. Martin A, hello, good to see you. What's up, kid? A few minutes extra for Green Room Bong Hits is understandable, but 16 minutes? All right, sorry about that. Mockery says hello. Well, thank you so much. We're so glad to have all of you here with us. So let's get started with our first segment. So, no one could have predicted this except for Hardlands Media. Biden faces a series of minefields in the coming year of 2022. So you can all check out the show notes in the description box below in case you want to read the articles or check them out for yourself. But let's get started. President Biden is staring down a number of minefields when he returns to Washington in the new year. Biden will have to tackle major issues, including the pandemic, getting it under control after a severe spike of the Omicron variant during the holiday season. Also, Biden's going to have to deal with the revived talks with the signature climate and social spending legislation to see parts of it can be salvaged and passed through Congress. This is the same Build Back Better that was shut down by his good friend, Joe Manchin. Joe Manchin, his wonderful pal. And he'll do it in a midterm election year, which Democrats fear they could lose the House. It's a daunting series of challenges as Joe 30330 gets set for his second year in office. To face this many genuine political fires, from a pandemic raging again to major legislation that might be finished, is the worst way to start the new year, said Julian Zeltzer, a professor of history and public affairs at Princeton University. Just to add the challenge, the midterm season will get fully underway, and it'll be harder to persuade any politician to do something that basically could be an electoral risk. Every strategist and political advisor agrees that Biden's handling of the pandemic will be his toughest and most important battle in the coming year. So let's just put a pause on this for a second. The Democrats could have done a lot of great things if they wanted to. But here's where, again, Hardlands Media was correct. We called it out during the primary, and we sure as hell called it out during the 2020 general election cycle. The Democrats aren't offering anything. And to the progressives that compromised with the Biden-Harris campaign during the general election, by assuming or holding on to hope that somehow Biden was going to, I guess, push along the progressive policies? What a wonderful dream. Hey, Bernie, they screwed you over. Hey, AOC, they never gave a damn about you. To all the other progressives in the House and Senate, what was the overall plan? To do nothing and maybe hope that maybe Biden and Harris would support you along the way? You see, the Democrats have control of the House. They have a good portion of seats in the Senate, and they have the office of the presidency. And during this time, they constantly did nothing. They were just patting themselves on the back for defeating Trump. And that's something a lot of the vote blue, no matter who crowd was going along with, cul-de-sac progressives, blue checkmark people, all singing praises that somehow we got rid of the bad orange man. But newsflash, he's going to run again in 2024. And going into this midterm election cycle, what can the Democrats say that they've accomplished? We sure as heck didn't get Medicare for all. No universal basic income. We're not doing anything about climate change. Nothing about student debt forgiveness, medical debt forgiveness, Medicare for all, doing something about regime change wars, investing into our infrastructure. All this was shot down. What can Biden do to avoid this minefield that he's walking into 2022? Nothing, because he willingly walked into it, as well as the Democratic establishment, as well as the progressives in the Democratic establishment. Hindsight is, after all, 2020. And what more can be said that hasn't been said already? You know, the Democrats, especially the House progressives, ignored the forced vote for Medicare for all. Didn't fight back for the $15 minimum wage increase. Ignored the March for Medicare for all. Ignored the 3-day general strike summit. These House progressives that claim to fight for activists and progressive policies and support free thinkers, where are they when we need them? Oh, they're giving praise to Biden and Harris, even though Biden and Harris haven't done nothing. They've done nothing to help out working class Americans. Constantly appeasing a non-elected official, the Senate parliamentarian, even though both of them can overrule the Senate parliamentarian. Constantly listening to Joe Manchin and Senator Sinema, all the while the progressives, hey, how come you're not using your political leverage? Oh, that's right. You're too weak to do that. Finally, let's look at this big picture as well. Through executive order, Biden, who could have maybe used this option, it would have boosted up his approval rating, legalize cannabis, forgive student debt, enact Medicare for all. 3 executive orders. Now, before anyone says, well, it's just not that easy, kid. Well, it's better something than nothing. Better to see the Democrats fight for something, but oh wait, the Democrats don't know how to fight. Even the progressives in the Democratic Party, they don't know how to fight. We've seen AOC cry when Nancy Pelosi was wagging her finger at her and yelling at her and berating her on the House floor. We've seen the progressives constantly at the last minute then call out and challenge Manchin. We've seen the progressives in the House and Senate. You know, remember that Build Back Better bill, you know, Biden's legacy, Biden's big bill, started at $7 trillion and is now down to $1.75 trillion. That was the compromise that progressives made with the Democratic establishment. And that compromise was being compromised, to where it does nothing to help out working class citizens. So at the end of the day, Biden and Harris, the Democrats, the progressives in the Democratic Party, the cul-de-sac progressives that carry water for the progressives in the Democratic Party, the vote blue no matter who, and K-Hive, congratulations. You're walking into a significant election year with nothing. No achievements, just feel-good statements on social media and your own arrogance and pride. How are you going to expect people to turn out to vote for you? Are you going to use the propaganda of Orange Man bad? Because newsflash to Democratic and Republican voters and to everyone else that's watching, no matter who controls the House or Senate or who is president, nothing will fundamentally change because the two-party system doesn't care about working class Americans. The two-party system only cares about its donors. And the Democrats listened to their constituents, not you, the voter, but their donors, to do nothing. And we got nothing. So Democrats, well done. You got nothing to run on, and it's going to be a disaster. But we here at Hardlands Media will be covering the midterm election cycle. I'm just very curious to see what kind of propaganda both sides are going to use. But as far as I'm concerned, now's the time to start supporting ballot initiatives and supporting building infrastructure for third parties. Break away from the two-party system because they don't care about you and they don't really care about anything that the working class has to go through. With that being said, I want to move on to our next segment. Before we do, I want to give a shout out to everyone watching us live. Shout out to Vegan Succubus. We got Cryosynths. We got Swag Bob Lee. We got Nancy Kurtz. Who else we got here? Who else do we have here? We have so many. Golden Silence. Happy New Year to you all. It's so good to have all of you here. Valerie says, Dems don't want to fight, Kit. They don't know how. Of course, it's a real fact. The Democrats just don't know how to fight. Martin A. Stoners over donors. That's right. Martin A. says that's what Joe said. We got Swagger Bobby Lee who says the so-called representatives aren't, and that is an existential problem. Let's see. We got Red Precarian who says AOC's office wasn't even in the same building, so her life wasn't in threat. Oh, you're talking about what happened on January 6th? Yeah. Nothing but song and dances from the Democratic Party. Don't expect them to fight for you. Don't expect them to give a damn about you. And again, be sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe. And subscribe to us on Rockfin and Odyssey as well. We got some great projects in the works, especially some Rockfin exclusive content. We're going to be working on that, I believe, in February. So be sure to subscribe to us on Rockfin because we're going to be talking about stories that will probably never be able to make it on YouTube because YouTube likes to censor independent media. So with that being said, I want to move on to our next story. Remember that good friend of ours, Tony Blair? You know, the guy whose legacy is connected to the devastating war in Iraq in 2003? Yeah. Well, it turns out Tony Blair is being offered a knighthood of me. No. All right. I had to put in the Monty Python reference. Apologies for that. But yes, Tony Blair is being offered a knighthood, but he's getting a well-deserved backlash. Because let's face it, there were no WMDs in Iraq. Thank you, corporate media, for pushing along that propaganda. Hey, YouTube, are you going to hold CNN or Fox News or MSNBC accountable for the fact that they contributed to that lie? The authoritative sources? So, the former Labor, oh my God, he's part of the Labor Party too. The former Labor Party Prime Minister, Tony Blair's emolument this weekend, courtesy of the Queen, Her Royal Majesty, has been defended by the Speaker of the House of Commons, Sir Lindsay Hoyle. Sir Tony, rather than Sir Anthony, as he is now known, has been made a Knight Companion of the most noble order of the Garter. 14 years after leaving Downing Street, but the honor has been criticized by Blair's political opponents and those who argue the legacy of his invasion of Iraq in 2003 makes him unsuitable. Because this is true. There were no WMDs in Iraq, and Tony Blair was going to bat hard for George Bush Jr., especially when it came time to set up the invasion. There were no WMDs in Iraq. Saddam Hussein did not have WMDs in Iraq. This is a fact. It was a lie. The intelligence agencies, you know, those big brain people, had nothing. There was nothing there. 2003, it's now 2022. Where the hell are the WMDs? So, continuing on. Speaking on Saturday morning, the Speaker said he felt the honor, the oldest and most senior British order of chivalry, was a fitting tribute for the former Prime Minister, though he felt it was not a political decision. Whatever people might think, it is one of the toughest jobs in the world, the Speaker said, and I think it is respectful and it is the right thing to do. Whether it is Sir David Cameron, they should all be offered the knighthood when they finish as Prime Minister. I guess they'll make anyone a knight, huh? Had to throw in a Game of Thrones reference. So, most of the attacks on the monarch's appointment of Blair to the order membership, of which was given on Saturday to Camilla, Duchess of Cornwall, and to the former Labour cabinet member Lady Amos, the first black person to be honored this way, have come to the political left, but were picked up by right-leaning media, including Daily Mail. The newspaper said that there's been a backlash, quoting satirical tweets from the veteran investigative journalist John Pilger and former MP George Galloway. Appointments to the ceremony order are made without prime ministerial advice and are usually announced on St. George's Day on April 23rd. So, Tony Blair, after contributing to a devastating lie, is being given a knighthood. So he's going to be a knight. Really? Even after contributing to a lie, he's offered I thought knights were supposed to be honor-bound and tell the truth, but I guess standards are falling down. This is so hilarious. Now, it really is a nothing burger, but I just want to just shine a light on the fact that war criminals are being given rewards, medals, achievements for lying. I wonder if Tony Blair ever wakes up in the middle of the night wondering that he sent many young men and women to their deaths in the war in Iraq. I wonder if he stays up late at night for the millions of civilians that died. but he's being offered a knighthood. The 2003 invasion of Iraq was based on a lie. There were no weapons of mass destruction. Before anyone else says it was about freeing Iraq, the original message was about weapons of mass destruction. Only after the invasion did it decide to change why we were there. It's an upside-down world. It's a crazy timeline. The bad guys are winning. All of them. Hypocrisy at its finest. Never hero worship these politicians. It doesn't matter if they agree with your points of view, whether you are a liberal or a conservative, a libertarian or green or socialist. It doesn't matter. These politicians don't care about you, and they're all scum because they don't like us. So there we go. Tony Blair is a knight. For contributing to a lie. All right. So, with that being said, I want to move on now to our next story. Before we do, I want to give a shout out to all of you here joining us. Martin A. Blair was a Clinton wannabe and Bush's biatch. Oh, absolutely. What else we got here? I also see here from the Red Precarian who says, by the way, the UK and their NHS is being cut. Let me tell you, to our international audience, you don't want America's healthcare. You don't want what we got. You just don't want what we got. Please don't. You know, in some states or in some cities, it costs $100 a block for an ambulance ride to the hospital. Some Americans are taking Uber and Lyft just to go to the hospital, just to avoid the ambulance ride. That's in America. To our international audience, if you live in the UK or Canada or anywhere in Europe, you don't want the American healthcare system. Trust me. Trust me on it. You just don't want it. I can't stress that out enough. Take a good long look at our healthcare system. It's not good. All right, moving on now to our final story. AOC is back in the news again. No, this time it's not about people wanting to date her or angry that they can't date her. Apparently, Senator Kristen Gillibrand would lose to AOC in a primary, ex-staffer says. So, she's the incredibly shrinking senator. Kristen Gillibrand has become so invisible, according to one of her ex-staffers and other observers, she would easily lose a primary challenge to the lefty Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. There are any number of state lawmakers, local officials, and members of the delegation, including AOC, who could mount a very, very credible challenge and quite likely beat her, the ex-staffer said, adding that his once vigorous former boss now seemed bored in the Senate and is missing an action statewide. Well, here's the thing. A lot of these politicians don't care. I want to let anyone that works for these politicians know this too. They don't care. Remember, whether you are a Democratic voter or a Republican voter, know this. Your favorite lawmaker in the House or Senate, 90% of the time, they're calling their donors on the phone, asking them for more money so they run for a campaign. They'll have that money so they get reelected, so that when they get reelected, they'll write legislation to help their donors, their corporate donors, so they go right back to that phone call begging them for more money. And mind you, again, the number one constituents to Democrat and Republican lawmakers, it's not you, the voter. It's big banks, corporations, Wall Street executives, hedge fund managers, the top 1%. You, the Democratic or Republican voter or independent voter, don't have a seat at the table. So I can believe it, where a senator like Kristen Gillibrand is bored. And remember, they're giving gold-plated health care, wonderful benefits. They're taken care of. Continuing on, longtime city Democratic strategist Hank Stickoff agreed AOC can beat Kristen Gillibrand. AOC will raise the money. She can beat her because Kristen Gillibrand is the invisible senator. She has done very little to cement that incumbency, and the electorate is angry, and she has done nothing to address the issues that matter, which is, of course, the pandemic, crime, and job loss in New York State. I see senior New York Senator Chuck Schumer all the time. I've never seen Gillibrand. I don't know why New York only has one senator, sniffed one Democratic state senator. Even Gillibrand's residency is invisible. She sold her 5-bedroom home in upstate Brunswick in 2020. She is currently registered to vote at an Albany address owned by her mother. A stately D.C. townhouse the family owned was sold this month for a whopping $2 million. Okay, continue on. Evan Lukshay, a spokesperson for Gillibrand, said his boss was continuing to look for a new home. Oh, wow. The senator rents an apartment in D.C. and lives in Albany when in New York, the spokesperson said. Her legislation is also so imperceptible. Oh, my goodness. A study by the Nonpartisan Center of Effective Lawmaking said Gillibrand, 55, was among the least effective senators in the previous Congress, ranked 39th of 45 among Democrats, with not a single substantive bill she proposed becoming law. In the last Congress, she missed more than 15% of votes, the ninth worst record of her colleagues, according to Governor Track. Schumer missed more than 1%. I guess good on Chucky Boy Schumer, right? A public schedule for Gillibrand shows that she held a pandemic press conference with Representative Carolyn Maloney last month. Many others days record no official businesses. Gillibrand didn't make the list of Crane's 2021 ranking of the most powerful women in New York, overshadowed by, among others, Attorney General Lita James, City First Lady Claralyn McCray, and the late night host Amber Ruffin. The senator has lately preoccupied her office with studying UFOs. Okay. Gillibrand was selected by then Governor Patterson in 2009 to fill the Senate seat being vacated by Hillary Rodham Clinton. Gillibrand won a special election in 2010 to keep her seat and was reelected to full terms in 2012 and in 2018. Some observers cited her disastrous 2020 presidential campaign as a turning point. The effort ended with friends and former aides begging her to drop out. By the end, she was hawking her own merchandise for pennies in a last-ditch effort to raise enough cash to qualify for the debates. Oh, how pathetic. So it wouldn't surprise me if AOC wanted to throw her hand in the ring. She could easily beat her. But it does call into question whether AOC will actually go for it. Whether she has the hunger to maybe continue to be part of the Democratic establishment. Because remember, in 2018, we saw AOC as this outsider, and then slowly, over time, compromise, fail, and not follow through with any of her promises. She hasn't been raising a ruckus, but boy, oh boy, can she post great statements on social media and, of course, ignore important events where her former friends, allies, activists, organizers are asking her to support March for Medicare for All or force to vote for Medicare for All or even fight for 15. Now, we've seen her cry when Nancy Pelosi starts parading her. I wonder if we'll see her cry if, I don't know, Chucky Boy Schumer starts parading her too. We'll see about that. So, continuing on, since the presidential campaign, she is totally checked out. She seems less engaged in policy-making decision and completely MIA from the political scene, said one top female Democratic consultant in New York. Prior to the presidential race, you couldn't turn off your TV without seeing her, and now it's like you haven't heard a peep out of her. Team Gillibrand said the premise she has disengaged is fanciful BS. Then where is she at? So continuing on, I just want to read the final parts of the statement. Ocasio-Cortez, meanwhile, has set much of the political world ablaze with speculation that she might challenge either Schumer or Gillibrand. The pair will face Democratic primaries in 2022 and in 2024, respectively. So, audience, let's have a debate. Let's have voting here. Let's have a rare concept of democracy. Do you think AOC would actually throw her hat in the ring for running for Senate, U.S. Senate? Type 1 for yes, type 2 for no. Well, let's get this conversation going. Now, the thing is, Gillibrand did run a presidential campaign. It failed miserably. And she has been MIA. And the fact that we're seeing her sell her home and apartments, I mean, that happens. People do that all the time. It's normal. But these lawmakers, at the end of the day, what have they accomplished? Especially Gillibrand. What have they all accomplished for us? Because right now, the problems that happened in 2020 have followed us in 2021 and are continuing to follow us in 2022. And these issues can be addressed if we had lawmakers that had a backbone, a spine. But they don't care. So whether or not Gillibrand decides to run again or AOC manages to unseat her, the question is, what will change for us? This is why we have to build movements outside of the two-party system. And this is why also we have to start talking to people that maybe we wouldn't agree with, maybe have a different point of view or perspective or from a different background, but we have to step outside our echo chambers. Start talking to our neighbors and our friends again. And actually talk about building a better future, because universally, we need to have Medicare for all, a Federal Jobs Guarantee Act, UBI, programs that will benefit small business owners, making Medicare for all happen, student debt forgiveness, having affordable college, investing into our infrastructure. But the people have to step up. Stop relying on the politicians to do the right thing, because they're not going to do it. They will all disappear and abandon you, because that's what they did in 2020. That's what they did last year. And they're going to do that again in 2022. But the only difference is they're going to start begging you for their vote. Have them earn your vote. With that being said, I do want to thank all of you for joining me for this live stream. I want to thank all of you for your support. Be sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe. And now more than ever, with this new year that we're walking in, please be safe. And Heartlands Media will be live next week, Monday, at 5 p.m. Central Standard Time. Peace to you guys, and let us all do what we can to build a better future. Take care.